may have mentioned. Michael Polanyi's great theorist. He's dead now. He wrote quite a series of very influential books about knowledge, particularly what he called tacit knowledge. He wrote a book called Tacit Dimension. And he characterized knowledge as either tacit or explicit. Tacit or explicit. With explicit knowledge is that stuff that we've been talking about endlessly. It's out there in space, it's an object. And he kind of reminds us that the word explicit comes from the Latin explicitus, which used to write at the end of medieval scrolls and manuscripts. Explicitus, it literally means it has been unrolled. So there's this sense of something unrolling. When it gets to the unrolled end point, that's where the knowledge is. So explicit is really interesting in those terms. But Michael Polanyi contrasts it with tacit, which doesn't mean not unrolled, it means completely different really. It comes from words like silent or dark. It has those kind of feelings to it. All the sense of this knowledge which is you can't speak about. It's silent, it's part of what gives you the ability to speak, not what you speak about. It's that kind of stuff. It's all that kind of stuff. All the knowledge that you can't describe, all the knowledge that's embodied in your actions. And it's kind of the knowledge that produces the stuff, but it's not the stuff itself. Does that kind of sense? Yeah. So when you do these exercises this morning, when someone's doing a gesture and you make a gesture in response, wherever that response you made came from, you can't articulate it, but it exists. Clearly, otherwise you wouldn't be able to do it. And that's tacit language.
So I wonder, we were talking about text and work, and the fact that we are sort of in a place now with sort of artism and all of this kind of anarchy that we're making text now. Now, I personally struggle to really work within that work problem anyway, and I really struggle with the concept of finished knowledge. And that, when I say finished knowledge, I say things like dissertations and PhDs and final things where it's a marking point in where your knowledge is now. But it seems to me that if we're in this text place now, that actually Rachel and I were saying that it was never finished, that there was that it kind of indicates that things aren't really ever finished. And say, for example, you got to the end of your day. Forgive me for saying that. But this to me sounds like and feels like it's an entire documentation and an entire research process, and it exists in that text. I don't feel like this is ever going to be finished. Yeah. I feel like this for you is a constant kind of thing, and leap it. Do you do it? Do you want to? Because I would love to do something like this. But by gosh, don't you wish that you had finished knowledge and that you could say, here, and like Emma was saying, like, and pass on that finished thing. Like, the intimidating thing is that you could be wrong, and that you could be waffling on, and your dogs could be doing something else, and my mum could come in and ask for a cup of tea or something like that. But if we're working in text now, we should be researching in text now and presenting in text now too. Is this making sense?
It makes great deal of sense. When you talk about what to text, you're using Barnes, is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just trying to make the connection really between Barnes' work to text model, because there is some slippage. But I don't think they're necessarily precluding one another. I mean, when I was talking about this thing here, I'm not necessarily holding myself as a great example here, but just certainly from my own experience, when I was doing these things, I certainly did make outcomes. I mean, there were outcomes of the log. I did this piece for an art exhibition last year. First person rambler. You'll probably see the connection with this and. Actually, I don't know. But basically, this is a piece I made. It came out of all that work. And it was just like one thing. Yes, it's unfinished, and yes, it's out of removed from its context. Basically, what you can see is me walking with a 13-foot pole over my shoulder with a camera on the end. And the camera is connected to a pair of video goggles. So I can only see myself from the back. Kind of only the first person in the video game. So what am I talking about? Oh yeah, so it's. I guess the point is that yes, it is completely removed from this context, and it isn't finished. But I quite like that. For the same reason I like buying the dinosaur 2 clicks away from these videos that I'm kind of thinking about. You just have to kind of learn to live with that, really. You know, to learn to enjoy the fact that you are textually embedded, and that even if you do make a piece of finished work, that's textually embedded. It just doesn't look like it is. I mean, these hardbound theses, they look like solid objects, and they might contain really solid information. But the fact is, they have got references at the end, which network them into everything you've ever read. And somebody else will read that and cite your work if it's good enough in their work. So it is already embedded within that tissue of quotations that Bart talks about. It just doesn't look like it is. Whereas this kind of stuff is really obviously embedded.
Yeah.
You know, the technology just visualizes all those things and makes it.
As well though, like when you hand that in, that's your knowledge at that point in time.
Yes, absolutely.
But then as soon as that's handed in effect, in terms of your knowledge at that day, because you let know the next day, you might have, like if you film something one day, your body's more like knowledgeable the next day. It's completely different.
Especially if knowledge is never finished.
Yeah.
And you can doubt the knowledge that you once had, or you can question it, but it channels it into a different type of knowledge. So therefore, should the research go hand in hand with that? I just think it's quite, in a way, quite admirable that you can be okay about at this point in time. This is where my head is. I think that's a really great thing to be able to do, and I wish in so long as I could do it, because I do kick and scream about dissertations and things like that. I love doing them, but that's just a mark in time. And I'm sure that you've all felt that sense of embarrassment about something you felt so proud of that you made once, because now you've gone further. I was just thinking out loud really, because of especially what we were talking about the other day about text and how work is different and how we can ever make that work now.
There's one question. You know the blog that you handled in your thesis?
Yes.
Was that before that? Sorry.
I didn't hand it in, it's just this is the website, so you look at it as a submission.
Yeah. But obviously, when you done blogs previously to that in the same format.
Yes.
And do you still do blogs after that?
Okay. Yeah, not as much.
Because it's kind of like, did you put a date on the times that this is my thesis from this date to this date, or was it kind of like my thesis started years ago and now it finished, like I finished my PhD now, but I'm still going to put blogs on it, so like it's kind of like
fantastic question.
My thesis ended in 06, but you can still look at what I'm doing now.
It's a really great question actually, because I just put last entry. This is the last course. For the previous entry to this, it's about BARTs, talking about multidimensional spaces in which a range of items blend and clash, which is the text thing we were just talking about. The day after this was May the 1st, and I thought, well, I stop now. So I just made the last day after my last entry. There's no sense of this winding down and bringing all the strands together and tying up a neat bow and thing. I just thought, I guess I can keep going this forever actually. At some point I have to submit this kind of thing. I'll stop it now. But it's completely arbitrary, you know, there's no drawing together. And in fact, to your right point, it does continue, because the external links to, I was a bit concerned in case of Aussie crime, so I mirrored a lot of this stuff. So some of it continues in other places, and I've got pictures of Clover on this one, the reason that I'm bothered for you is right now. So yeah, some of the blogs continue there. The second blog, which again was, for a while was mirrored, I had 3 blogs mirroring, just in case all the servers crashed, just on different servers. But one of them stopped completely on May the 1st. These are the 2 continued. They're actually continued in different content. One's got lots of picture of 4-leaf clovers on, and this has got more of a similar kind of stuff. And of course the conference support videos on Facebook is still continuing. So even though it's actually, the notion is it's finished on May the 1st, in actual fact it kind of continues to
like your whole entire documentation reflects that the journey of what was supposed to be happening. This is finished now. We have to deal with so much in like making work in making material in advance. You just think when do you stop? When is it finished? When is it fixed? And do you fix?
Normally
fix it?
once I've got